The story of Jephthah and his daughter is one of the most moving and complex stories in the Bible, found in the book of Judges. Jephthah was a man who had a rough beginning in life. He was the son of Gilead, but his mother was a prostitute, and because of this, his half-brothers rejected him and cast him out of their home. Jephthah grew up as an outcast, leading a band of men who lived on the edges of society. Despite this troubled background, he was known for his courage, strength, and leadership, which would eventually draw the attention of the elders of Gilead. When the Ammonites came to wage war against Israel, the elders turned to Jephthah for help. At first, Jephthah reminded them how they had once rejected him, but they pleaded with him to lead them, promising him authority if he would fight for them. Jephthah accepted, and with the Spirit of the Lord coming upon him, he prepared to lead Israel into battle. Before going into the fight, Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. In his desperation and desire for victory, he promised that if God gave him success against the Ammonites, then whatever came out of the doors of his house to meet him when he returned would be dedicated to the Lord, and he would offer it as a burnt offering. With this vow hanging over him, Jephthah went out to battle, and God granted him a victory. He defeated the Ammonites with overwhelming force, securing Israel from their enemies. His return home, however, brought a tragic twist that turned his victory into sorrow. As Jephthah returned to his house in Mizpah, it was his daughter, his only child, who came out to meet him. She danced with tambourines, celebrating his triumph. In that moment, Jephthah's heart sank, for he remembered the vow he had made. He tore his clothes in grief and cried out, "O my daughter, you have brought me very low, for I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I cannot take back my vow." His daughter, showing remarkable faith and courage, did not run away or resist. Instead, she answered her father with submission and trust in God. She told him that if he had made a vow to the Lord, then he must keep it, because the Lord had given him victory over their enemies. Her only request was that she be allowed 2 months to go into the hills with her friends and mourn her virginity, since she would never marry or bear children. Jephthah granted her this time, and she went to lament her fate. After 2 months, she returned to her father. He fulfilled the vow he had made to the Lord. The scriptures are not entirely clear about the details of how the vow was carried out, and scholars have long debated whether she was literally sacrificed as a burnt offering or dedicated to lifelong service of the Lord, never to marry. Regardless of the interpretation, the story emphasizes the great cost of Jephthah's vow and the faithfulness of his daughter, who willingly accepted her fate. This story is one of the most sobering in the Bible, reminding us of the seriousness of the words we speak before God. Jephthah's vow was made rashly, without thinking through any of the consequences. In his zeal and desperation for victory, he made a promise that led to heartbreak and tragedy. His daughter's response, however, stands out as one of the most beautiful examples of submission and courage in Scripture. She accepted her father's vow with grace and trust, showing a heart of faith that put God's honor above her own life and her own dreams. For generations, the people of Israel remembered Jephthah's daughter. The book of Judges tells us that every year, the daughters of Israel would go out for 4 days to commemorate her. This shows how deeply her story touched the nation, not only as a warning about rash vows, but also as a testimony of devotion and sacrifice. Her story reminds us that faith sometimes requires the surrender of our deepest desires, and that devotion to God may come at great personal cost. Jephthah's life, from being an outcast to becoming a leader of Israel, so teaches us about God's ability to use those whom society rejects. Even though Jephthah made mistakes, God worked through him to deliver Israel from their enemies. Yet the tragedy of his vow remains a powerful lesson about the weight of our promises. It shows us that while God values faithfulness, he does not require foolish or destructive vows from us. Instead, he desires obedience, humility, and a heart that trusts him fully without bargaining or rash conditions. The story of Jephthah and his brave daughter continues to stir reflection among readers today. It challenges us to consider how we speak before God, how we handle the responsibilities of leadership, and how we respond when obedience to God comes at a great personal price. It also highlights the bravery and faith of a young woman whose name we do not even know, but whose example has echoed through history. Her sacrifice became part of Israel's collective memory and stands as a reminder of devotion, faith, and the seriousness of our words before the Lord. Thank you for watching, and may this story encourage you to seek wisdom, to guard your words, and to trust God with a steady heart, knowing that His ways are higher than ours and His purposes are always good.